city, but I am tired of the same people, of the same things. I want to escape now to another place now, but with you, 'cause I don't want to be alone. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Fuji.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been mugged and a drift to show off.
I love it. 16.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
But experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GitGudRacing.com. I've coached hundreds of drivers, from real-life racers to sim enthusiasts, who experience rapid improvement after just one session. And while investing in top-notch hardware is great, imagine how much more you can elevate your experience by adding coaching to the mix. My methods are practical, aiming to break down complex concepts into easily digestible bits that are simple to understand. You can find reviews of the sessions I've conducted on the Fiverr link provided in the video description. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together.
Hello everybody, welcome to Chaz Draycott Media and welcome to round 3 of the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship here from Fuji. This very unique round of the series is going to be a wet and wonderful affair, and we're certainly looking forward to some slippery action out there on the circuit tonight. This is going to be a humongous challenge for everyone involved. My name is Chaz Draycott. I'm delighted to be once again joined by Ed May. Ed, what do you reckon to this, mate? Our first properly wet race in this series. GT3 cars, always a bit of a handful in the wet.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky to manage, especially on a circuit like Fuji Speedway with the speeds they're going to be taking into turn 1 in the wet, having to try and brake offline so you're not onto that slippery, rubbered in surface of the circuit. It's going to be so tricky and demanding for the drivers, especially into turn 1, because it looks like it's going to be wet all the way through from start until finish.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's an interesting layout of the track as well here for this round of the series. Without the chicane, it really opens up that last sector and makes it really, really quick. So the drivers are going to have to put in one hell of an effort around here to keep these cars under control. We're going to see a lot of spinning. We're going to see maybe a bit of contact here and there if people are understeering. But as a lot of you may have realised by now, this is not an as live, well, it is an as live broadcast, but not live on the evening itself. Ed and I have gotten together a few days after to bring this broadcast to you. Unfortunately, the function that we usually use to bring replays into these, as SDK has with its wonderful timing software, it usually does have a feature where you can use a replay file and treat it as if there are replays for this event. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use that this evening. We haven't found a way for that to work. It just seems to not want to work with this replay file. We give a quick shout out as well to Rob Mackay. Thanks to him for sending us his replay file for this. Also, James Bostock, the series admin, did provide us with one too. We have qualifying that has gone on at the moment. As this is a replay file, we have received just obviously one car out there on the circuit, hasn't rendered the other cars in, so we have joined during qualifying, and when that finishes in just a minute and a half's time, we will jump straight into the race. It's a 1 hour race here tonight, and that adds even more into this, doesn't it, Ed, with the fact that the circuit is going to change over the course of an hour. It's not just a short sprint race here in the wet, so there's plenty of the drivers having to think about stuff during this event.
Yeah, there really is. It's going to be a different race than what they used to in races past, in both obviously at the start of the season, but also in the previous season, where in these 1 hour races they had to measure, I think, fewer things. But now, obviously, out on the circuit, they're going to have to worry a lot about sort of their tyre wear as well, because if they manage to get sort of a dry line start to form, they need to be careful of keeping their tyres nice and cool, and also having to focus on potentially what they do in the pit stops, if it's worth maybe taking fresher wet tyres or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly a lot to think about as the race goes on. Qualifying session has about 30 seconds left. It's a good time to shout out the championship sponsors as well. Thank you very much to Kame, to Medius, Keenan Eco Energy, AB Designs and GitGud Racing, who of course you'll have seen during the introduction there. They have a new sort of promo video for us to show off in this championship, which is great to have. Thanks again to James Bostock for sorting that out for us and sending it over. We had an interesting start to the season as well, didn't we, Ed, at Catalonia? Plenty to think about there with the new cars added in, obviously the Corvette and the Mustang, which we were both big fans of, but some new drivers into the fray as well, which really took us by surprise.
Yeah, it was great to see, obviously, some new faces and also the familiar rabble that we're used to here in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. And there was some really great storylines, weren't there, of drivers coming in there on their first attempt and securing victory. It was wonderful to see as we have now the results from qualifying up on the screens.
Absolutely. Troy Dolinchek and Luke Lucchese will make up the front row of the grid, with Gianni Terhar and John Breitenbach making up row 2 in the Porsche. Tristan Dinobrega next up, with Tristan Engelstad making it an all Tristan row 3 actually. Christopher Radloff next up in P7, with Luke King from 8th spot on the grid. Ryan Ottens next up in 9th. He had a bit of an unlucky time at Catalonia. He's got Stephen Donnelly next to him on row 5. Then it's Marcel Breitenbach with Paul Cowlishaw on the 6th row. Joe Shapara and Francois Brandet, he's going really well in the Evo class, 14th overall. Matthew Jones next up with Joe Glass alongside him. Nathan Crook then has Robin Noel Brown for company in 18th. Matthias Penteler down in 19th with Russell Jakes alongside him. Jack Wyborn is 21st with Graham Matthew on row 11 with him. Then it's Malo Tilai, and we have Nick Stubb in 24th. We will get, it's TA, isn't it? We'll get his name right one day. Martin Kenyon next up with Simon Cheshire on row 13. Ati Nagel is in 27th with Danny Weir 28th. Alex Fretwell, the next car on the grid, with Hussein Saraka Desler in the top 30. Wesley Van Rens and John Ludbrook on row 16. Then it's Scott Kostrick and Rob Mackay, James Howarth and Chris Keenan on row 18. Still more. Niazi Oskinar is 37th with Bruno Silva behind. Then it's Alex Boniface and James Bostock rounding out the 40. Following them, I'm going to go through these a bit more quickly now because I'm aware of this warm-up lap. James Robinson, Robin Aston, Ian Cable, Sean Clark, Owen Seward, Robin Truswell, Gareth Newton and Dennis Collar, and typically only one more, and it's Matt Hoyland at the back end of the order for this race. But it's Troy Dolinchek starting from pole position here, Ed, and he is going to be definitely one to watch here. Troy's got a lot of talent and a lot of pace about him. I'm excited to see what he can make of this race at the very top of the order.
Yeah, he seems to have been, well, they're both in the dry and also now in the wet. It's going to be interesting, obviously, because of how strong he was at Barcelona, to see if that form continues over into a very different race, very different complexion to it, with the obviously changing weather element to proceedings. But it seems that nothing can stop Troy, not rain, nor wind, nor sleet, nor snow.
Absolutely not. Nothing can keep him back at all by the look of it. We've got Francois Brandet here in the Porsche. He had a great start to his championship at Catalonia, taking his first win. He told us that it was going to be a bit of a French domination in the different classes in the championship. He qualified here pretty high up in the order, actually. As you can see there, 14th overall. You get the different colours for the different classes next to their position. And it is Donnelly that was the highest placed driver in the Premier class, which is the sort of middle class in the field, so to speak. But as the field heads round the final corner now, Troy Dolinchek is going to get us underway. The timer will reset in the top left of your screen to an hour. Looks like Luke Lucchese is eager to get going. Looks like Troy's trying to catch him out here. He's also trying to catch out John Breitenbach just behind, but the pace car isn't even in yet. Almost looks like a Porsche Cup from this angle. It's mighty loud from down there. We get this lovely view up here in the grandstand. A couple of ghost cars in the background, it seems. That's the effects of the replay, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. But we hope you enjoy the show as it's about to get underway here from behind the bridge. Any moment now, Troy will plant his right foot and get us going. He's got Gianni Terhar ready to take aim as well from that second row of the grid. He's making them wait a while here. Very, very long wait here as they head down. And now, as the camera changes, Troy Dolinchek gets his foot down, and round 3 of the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship gets going here at Fuji. And as they head into turn 1 for the first time, hard on the brakes. Everybody's trying to keep it nice and tame, aren't they? Alpha 1 Esports cars right together there. Ryan Otten's on the inside line. Francois Brandet trying not to do too much in terms of running a tighter line. They'll have to keep a wet line, won't they, here? Because, let's face it, you've got to just try and go finding the grip in these opening moments, haven't you, Ed? It's not easy, this.
It's so tricky, and it's on these opening laps where the tyres aren't quite up to temperature either, as we see a little bit of a moment up ahead, and that looks like it's Gianni Terha off the road there after such a promising start to his season, really adapting brilliantly to life in that elite class. All of a sudden in the wet finds himself all the way down now into 26th.
It's a beautiful view from on board the Porsche, but look at the understeer. Listen to the gearbox moaning its bag off through the left-hander. It's a horrible, horrible sound sometimes from these things, but don't you just love iRacing's wet weather? They have nailed it. It looks so, so cool from on board. You really get an idea of the drama of these things. It's truly, truly excellent. As they head towards the end of the first lap, there's more contact. That's the number 55 machine in there with him. That's Danny Weir. Oh, he's going to be feeling weary after that. As he gets tipped to the left-hand side of the circuit, he's trying to rejoin where he can, but he's right down at the back of the pack. They're heading back towards the front. Marcel Breitenbach is involved in a bit of a scrap here. Oh, it looked to me there like Luke King has gone, yeah, he's gone off the circuit to the left-hand side, trying to get back on for the end of lap 1. Flipping heckhead, that's only 1 lap in the books here. Naughty, naughty stuff.
Yeah, very, very much there. You can see Troy Dolenchek, look at that lead he's already built up, 1.5 seconds to Luke Lucchese. Now, it is always easier being the lead car in the wet around here because you don't have the effect of the spray. You can pick your lines, but then you're also the downside is you're the first car to come to every corner as the rain is coming down. So if you find a wet patch that catches you out, you're going to be the one to really meet it head on. All the other cars can see what you've done and try and sort of skirt around it. So he is a bit like a test guinea pig at the moment, but he seems to be very comfortable out in the lead of the races. We're coming now to Robin Noel Brown, beautiful orange Suma GP2 Porsche, second place in the Evo class, trying to chase down Francois Brandet just up ahead. And Francois, he's had a great time of things, hasn't he? Actually, both the Frenchmen at Catalonia having a great time. As I say that, because the commentator strikes instantly, and Francois finds himself dropping out of the lead of the Evo class.
Yeah, he had a spin there with Nick Stubb, I believe it was, involved with him. Really, really unfortunate stuff there, but again, it's just as easy as losing the back end all on your own in this weather and just having a drama with someone else getting caught up in it. There's Bruno Hi-Ho Silver away in the Ludcrook Racing machine, car 177. He was having a look down the inside of the BMW for just a moment there, which is James Robinson in the Glasstec Academy car. Look at the spray, you can't see a thing. Well, what you can see is Matt Hoyland going for a absolutely wild ride down into the bottom end of the circuit. Everyone else slamming on. How nobody else hit him there, I do not know. But that shows you just how easy it is to lose the back end of these cars as you go back down the hill. There's more battles going on here as Alex Boniface, easily one of the prettiest cars on the circuit. He's now trying to get round the tower block BMW of James Robinson, but this is exactly what we expected, Ed. It's all over the place to begin with, but wow, exciting stuff all the same.
That was a very dramatic moment there, wasn't it? You could see that Lamborghini was not playing ball whatsoever. Meanwhile, Marcel Breitenbach, a lovely livery there for the Barbecue Red Racing driver, currently leading the way in the Premier class. He's got a little bit of a buffer, doesn't he, to Joe Sparrow in behind. Let's see if we can find where Joe Sparrow is out on the circuit. Just coming through the shop now, out of turn 1. So he's got several cars in between himself and the Premier class leaders, Joe. He just needs to focus on keeping himself out of trouble. That seems to be the main thing for the drivers, is keeping it on the tarmac, because already a few drivers have been getting caught out. But now this is the phase where the tyres should be warmed up enough. They've been around for a couple of times. They should be a little bit more predictable.
Yeah, that's it. You get used to where the grip comes to you and goes away on the circuit, so it's easier the longer that you're on them. And even the wet tyres want a bit of temperature in them. You want to be cooling them down when the track starts to dry a little bit later. But I'm not sure it will be doing, because by the look of the weather, it's going to continue raining time and time again here at Fuji. It's Troy Dolenchek leading the race from Luke Lucchese and Jean Breitenbach in the elite class. In the Premiers, it is Breitenbach from Sparrow, from Donnelly. So Sparrow's got his teammate behind him as well. Robin Noel Brown did inherit that lead in the Evo class as well, just behind them actually. Martin Kenyon and Graham Matthew close together in the two Lambos. Good to see Martin Kenyon going well. Martin in the number 3 machine, the Spirit of Yorkshire Racing livery, always looking resplendent on his cars. He's raced in a number of our leagues. That was Graham Matthew going for a spin in the background there actually. I think he's got caught up as well with Simon Cheshire. Simon Cheshire will not be wearing the grin of a Cheshire cat, that's for sure, as he now recovers. But it's really thrown the field into jeopardy, hasn't it? So many drivers in different classes, all amongst one another here, Ed.
As you can it's just so tricky for the drivers at the moment. Just really getting to grips with the circuit while also having to fight amongst themselves. And I think that's why we're seeing a few more incidents than what the drivers were experiencing during practice and qualifying, is because it's not just them out on the circuit anymore. It is pretty much just a bun fight out there, finding grip as they can. And all the drivers are essentially fighting for not just position, but also any sort of grip that they can find on circuit. Look at Simon Cheshire, I was able to get it stopped by breaking off of the traditional racing line. There was someone going, I think, just plowing straight on, wasn't it, into turn one.
Nick Stubb just losing it on the brakes there, but that's another thing. It's not just about how it gets out of the corner and putting the power down. It's about how you get the car stopped as well. It's easy to lock up the brakes in these GT3 cars, and before you know it, one axle wants to go in one direction and the other axle wants to go in the other. So you've got to really have your wits about you no matter what you're doing in these cars. An interesting start to the race though, with so many of them tiptoeing around, but that's why we love wet weather racing, and iRacing really has done a solid job of it. As we said Martin Kenyon was going well, and he's now parked on the apex. The Lamborghini looks wonderful, but he's had to try and get out of the way. Fair play. Moves out of the way pretty sharpish considering. Let's have a look for some of the Corvettes and the Mustangs, Ed, because we've not got a huge amount of them in the field. This is Robin Truswell in the Vectar racing machine. Lovely looking car. He's right behind Matt Hoyland now, who's recovering after his earlier spin.
Yeah, I've got to say, big fan of the Vectar racing Corvette there. You can just see the cars working so brilliantly on Robin Truswell. I think we mentioned last time it was very reminiscent of the old sort of super touring Volvos.
Yes, it absolutely is. As Nick Stubb having another moment here. He's struggling with the wet weather here tonight by the look of it. He qualified a lot higher though. I think just trying to get to grips with it in the race, and having to compromise your racing line is so important in the race as well, because when you're in qualifying and you're on your own, you can run whatever line you want to run. You know, you can be comfortable in your own racing line, whereas in the race you have to make so many adjustments and so many changes to where you are on the circuit. It looked like Matt Hoyland was coming in the pit lane there. Yes, he absolutely is. He makes his way down. He'll rumble his way past in the Lamborghini Huracan. Plenty of standing water down there in the pits too. You've got to be so careful in there. Battle going on here. Rob Mackay and Niazi Oskinar in the K1 Esports machine. Niazi runs a little bit wide and then suddenly comes under attack from Simon Cheshire. So much going on. But this is what we love the championship for. We've always got something to look at. And to be fair, we very often look at this man at the front. He's just carrying on again. Great consistency from Troy Dolinchek.
Yeah, 4 seconds now, the margin between himself and his teammate Luke Lucchese. And Luke is no slouch. That just shows how fast Troy is at this moment in time. But Luke Lucchese, being as quick as he is, and was actually, I believe, Season 4 champion last season. He's just sort of not really got any answer for him. And Troy almost seems quicker in the wet compared to how he is in the dry. And that's a scary thing.
I was going to say, that's absolutely terrifying, isn't it? The fact that he's even quicker when it comes to the wet conditions. Here's Joe Glass, currently behind Marcel Breitenbach. Marcel leading in the Premier class. So Joe just wanting to potentially get by for his own sanity here, so he doesn't have to fight against a Premier class driver. Joe actually does the broadcasting using the same software we do on SDK for the Evolution Sim Racing TCR series, which has started recently. Joe's getting to grips with the software and doing a great job of it as well. Solo broadcasting is definitely not easy, as we can tell you. And Joe is doing a good job of that. He's got good CSS experience as well, so he knows what he's looking at when it comes to the software. As Martin Kenyon has had another issue here. I think Ryan Ottens has had a drama somewhere as well, because Ryan has dropped a lot of time. Oh, there's a bit of debris here and there as well in the later parts of the lap, I should say. Not quite sure what happened there with Martin, but maybe a bit of contact as Bruno Silva having a bit of a moment there with one of the Lamborghinis. That's Graham Matthew, isn't it?
It is Graham Matthew, I think, just getting overtaken there by Silva. You can see just the amount of spray that gets kicked up as well. It makes it so difficult for the drivers to really pick their points and know exactly where to follow, because oftentimes you only really get the brake lights of the drivers ahead to inform you of what's going on essentially up ahead. And easily that can lead to tunnel vision, which just leads to more mistakes. Very different lines being taken there, as you can see, and it's well, the title line from Graham is quicker into the corner, but out of the corner he's fighting to try and keep it on a straight line.
I love watching it though. Again, I have to tip my hat to iRacing for their amazing effort here in doing the doing what they have done with wet weather. Niazi Ozkanar, by the way, has inherited the lead in the Evo class. There's been a drama for Noel Brown, who has dropped away and lost his spot, as now Ozkanar decides to bin it as well. Now Chris Keenan's going to go through, and he's going to take the lead in the class. Nobody wants to win this race, especially not in the Evo category. A shout out again to the championship sponsors, Cam A, Medius, Keenan Eco Energy, AB Designs and GitGud Racing. It's always a good time to do it when you've got one of the championship sponsors on your screen leading the class as well. Perfect marketing that is, gentlemen. But yeah, what a busy race this has been so far. Loads to look at, but yeah, iRacing's wet weather is just absolutely savage. That's the thing. They've gone for a realistic interpretation of it. You know, they've not dumbed it down. They've not gone, oh, let's make it more grippy so it's easier for everyone. They've gone, you wanted wet weather. It is wet weather. Driving it. Like, yeah, you wanted this. That's the sort of stance they're taking. It's so difficult. And with the spray as well, you know, no matter what your graphics settings are on it, it's hard to see through it. So there's no benefit of changing your graphics settings, really. And on other sims, we know that it can sometimes be dumbed down and it can be made easier. I mean, on a set of Corsa Competizione, when you get the drying line on the circuit, it's just a pre-generated drying line. The racing line dries out naturally as, Alex Fretwell having a drama in the Ferrari. But what I was saying was on iRacing, it's actually affected by where the cars are and when. You know, how many cars go over a certain part of the circuit and heat it up, and the heat of the tyres going through it. It's all dynamic and it's all calculated here on iRacing. It's taken them a long time to do it, but you can see why, can't you?
Yeah, and you can also see by the way the circuit is cambered as well. Obviously the higher areas of corners will have the water just naturally flow down, so they won't be quite as wet as those sort of more angled, and you find sort of pools forming at the apexes of corners as a result. And I think you can see a little bit of standing water on that corner just gone. You can see him kicking up a lot of sort of just water particulates flying up, can't you, as they sort of hit the apexes of a lot of these corners, because that's just naturally where the standing water pools essentially is. Who was that? Just was that Nagel? I think stopped for a moment. Nagel's dropped all the way down, hasn't he?
Yes, Atsi Nagel has lost time, but Nick Stubb having a big send up the inside for a moment there, and I think he's got his teammate going past him there. It's that, yes, that's Malo TA. He was in a Martini branded livery last time round, if I remember rightly. He's changed that now and is running the Glasstech Academy colours. Oh, that sounded spicy, whatever that was. As Troy Dolinchek now puts a lap on. Is that Matt Hoyland? It is, in the Lamborghini. But yeah, that's another thing you mentioned very rightly there, Ed, is the fact that based on how much water is sat somewhere on the circuit, is how much spray gets kicked up. I was commentating on the Watkins Glen 6 hours just a couple of weekends ago, and it was amazing to watch from the blimp cam from distance as they flung the prototypes through the bus stop chicane one way then the other. You could see them smack the curbs and smack the puddles, and there was a humongous splash from underneath the car. It was really cool to see it. And it's great that iRacing even, you know, it simulates that as well. Shows you every dynamic angle of this wet weather that it can. We've got Dolinchek leading the race outright then Luke Lucchese, then John Breitenbach, Tristan Dinnebrega and Tristan Engelstad, top 5 in the elite category. In the Premier category, it's Marcel Breitenbach having a fantastic drive in the Audi, Jack Wyborn second place, then Matthew Jones, Russell Jakes and Wesley Van Rens, although Chris Keenan has just taken the lead recently in the Evo class, and for some reason it's hopped them in front of them. Graham Matthew and Niazi Ozkanar second and third there, then Alex Boniface, who we haven't seen much of yet, and then Dennis Koller in 5th place. We'll show you the overall standings though, so you can get an idea of whereabouts everybody is. And more of the Premier class drivers have moved ahead of the Evo class guys now, Ed.
Yeah, they certainly have. I'm just looking as well at Breitenbach in the gap that he has. Still comfortable, isn't it, to Jack Wyborn? In fact, it's now over 10 seconds.
Yeah.
The gap. Marcel is really having a good time out there in the wet, it seems. Like, that Audi isn't too bad of a car to be in, and sometimes it is those mid-engine cars that have sort of a finely balanced weight to them are a little bit easier to drive in the wet, because you can feel what the car is doing a little bit more intuitively than maybe a car with a big heavy engine at the front.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to put a lot more work in to rotate the front end of a front engine car, so when you do overdo it, it's already carrying that pendulum weight to the apex of the corner and sometimes throwing it past it, so it's very difficult to come back from that. We're riding on board now with Marcel Breitenbach. You get a dose of the delightful 5.2 litre V10 in the Audi R8. This is the LMS Evo 2 version of the car, the later iteration. I recently got back into driving a little bit on iRacing. Now I've got my rig set back up again. I've got the trusty GT Omega out, and I was actually driving the old version of the Audi at the Nordschleife, remembering that it was a pig, and for some reason it feels lovely now. But the GT3 cars have all received a lot of great quality of life updates, so they move around a lot more. They're a lot more animated than they used to be, I'm sure, from when we first started to race together, actually, Ed. I think you were with Fury Simsport at the time, and we had I know, innit? We used to have the odd encounter on circuit before we knew each other properly, and back then the cars were either glued to the road or you'd have the tiniest slide in the world and you were dead. It was a nightmare, wasn't it?
It got the sort of unfair reputation, I think, of being known as ice racing.
Yes.
Where it was just, you have all the grip and all of a sudden it was basically like you were driving on ice. You would have no feeling whatsoever. The cars would just slide and slide and slide forever, and there was nothing you could do about it. But now, obviously, iRacing, through various different iterations of the new tyre model, I think we're on the 8th generation, is it, of the new tyre model?
Something like either 8 or 478, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's the new tyre model.
Yes.
They've managed to get it all sorted out, and to be fair, the cars, especially in GT3, feel absolutely sublime, I have to say as well. The TCR cars and the GT4s, I think, are some of the best on the service as well.
Yeah, definitely. The GT4s in particular, I was driving as we covered an event at the Laguna Seca, the Californian 250 by SRM. We did that event recently and had a bit of a go in some of the GT4 cars ourselves in the wet, and it's just so much fun. It really is. They float around like mad, but even in the dry, the way that the tyre model works is just awesome. Marcel Breitenbach's had a drama here, and he's amongst a lot of these elite class drivers trying to defend for himself, as all of them try and battle around each other. There's contact there. Sideways, sideways, sideways. Is he going to keep out of the barrier? No, there's a kiss with the wall. That was, I believe, Christopher Radloff in the Alpha 1 Esports car. Where is Jack Wyborn in all of this? He's still a few seconds back, but is Breitenbach damaged? Because he had a hit from the left rear and then a hit against the left front on the barrier. That was far from ideal. That naughty, naughty stuff.
I think he might have just gotten away with it, and if it is damaged, it probably is something he most likely be able to manage for quite some time. The car seems to be steering in a straight line. You can see the steering column there just on the left hand side. It appears to be all finely balanced, straight and narrow, but obviously doesn't tell us the full story of what that might have done to some of the aero devices on the front of the car, maybe the front split. It all looks obviously fine, as it should do, but again, sometimes on iRacing looks can be deceiving. Even though we are on sort of the new damage model, there can be a few hiccups with it.
Yeah, as is with, online racing and sim racing, there's often a bit of a miscommunication between one simulator to the next, even when it comes to replay files as well. Got a good battle going on further back here, although, actually I thought Hussein Sarakadezo had a proper moment off the circuit there, but just run wide for a second. He's got Rob Mackay and Simon Cheshire in there with him. Rob looking to the inside. Simon also wanting to follow that same line as they try and get by the Lamborghini. Scott Kostrick and Danny Weir have just swapped places as well down at turn 1. We're trying to keep up with everything that we can here on Chaz Draycott Media. This is a very, very busy race to do, and considering we don't have replays to that effect today, we're going to try and catch as much of it live as we can, everybody. But wow, in the wet, it certainly spices things up because every single corner is so much more unpredictable, isn't it, Ed? I love this.
It really is. It's so tricky, obviously, for all the drivers to keep on managing. We've been saying it time and time again that they're having not just to fight with each other, but fight with the cars, fight with the circuit as well. But it's bringing an absolute spectacle, isn't it? You can see all of the drivers out there trying their damnedest to keep it on the circuit. As we go on board with Wesley Van Rens,
I was going to say,
it's a massive kick of oversteer on the exit. Oof.
I was going to say I might have to give you a minute now, mightn't I? As we ride on board once again with the new Mustang GT3 to come to iRacing, the only one in the field here tonight, Wesley Van Rens. Let's just listen. I mean, I'm holding my breath.
Sounds majestic, doesn't it? Oh, listen to the whine as well. It's just
what a great machine. And it's about 75 times the size of any other GT3 car out there as well. Makes even the Corvette's not a small car, but it makes the new Corvette look absolutely tiny as well. Wesley Van Ren's currently running in 5th position. Like I say, the only Mustang in the field is, ooh, dearie me. Off for a ride goes Hussein Sarakadezla. That's probably similar to what he did the previous lap, which is what triggered the track limits warning. As Graham Matthew in the Lamborghini is the one leading the elite class, sorry, the Evo class. Breitenbach still holds on to his lead in Premier. We'll go back to, Luke Lucchese off the road. I was just about to say we'll go back to the front, and it's just lit up red that Lucchese has gone off. And John Breitenbach will be, well, there he is, gliding by in the barbecue bread racing machine. John makes the move, goes up to 2nd place outright. He's going really well in the wet conditions, isn't he, Ed?
Really well, actually, yeah. It's interesting, obviously, to go on with it. I'm not having a bad time with him whatsoever at this moment in time. Barbecue bread racing. Very rare do we see the IDSA esports drivers struggling out in front, but it's great to see some more competition, isn't it? Yet again, though, more South African dominance, it appears, of especially the top of the elite class, but I'm all here for it. It's great to see these drivers all battling out, and now got a little bit of a race on our hands, but definitely for P2, because Troy's just completely checked out, hasn't he, in the lead of this race?
Yeah, he's Dolin checked out, you could say. Absolutely gone. But yeah, Breitenbach and Lucchese together. We've got Tristan Di Nobrega not too far behind them either. Brave taking that much curb through there, but again, that's just what it comes down to with some of these drivers. You know, the level of confidence that they've got to throw the car at certain elements of the circuit, especially here in the wet. It's just great to behold. And you can see a bit of a dry line forming actually as the natural temperature from the cars running over it does start to form around the track. There's a few of them that are just taking a few liberties here and there. Running over the dry line and sort of back onto a wet part of the circuit is probably the riskiest thing you can do, isn't it? You go from a wet patch to a dry patch to a wet patch again. It's going to feel like backside, to say the least. But they're all managing it really well at the moment, and I've got to take my hat off to them, because I was expecting a bit more chaos than this, and from one driver's perspective it may feel like chaos, but they're holding their own very, very well.
Yeah, you can see through here it's very difficult to pick any sort of wet line, and as soon as they start tonguing into the corner, that's when a lot of the heat gets worked into the tyres, and that is what sort of creates the dry line. On the straights it isn't as present as Graham Matthew. This is from the lead of the Evo class. What's gone on here? He's had a little bit of a spin just coming in towards, such a tricky corner that, isn't it? That long sweeping right hander just caught him out. A lot of damage as well to the side of the car, so there could have been a bit of contact potentially.
I think that may have been from earlier, but I'm not sure. I think he had a bit of a knock earlier on in the race, but now that means that once again the Turkish driver Niazi Özkenar has re-inherited the lead as he and Bruno Silva go side by side, or sideways at least, through the right-hander. Second is Dennis Koller, and he's not far off the back of this for the class lead either. So the Evo class, definitely the one that's most hotly contested at this present moment. Nearly at the halfway stage of the race. Not many pit stops completed yet. We'll show you on the left-hand side of the screen. There's a couple of drivers have completed them, but you can see that Francois Brandet and Howarth a bit further down in the Evo class, the only ones in the top 10 of either of their respective classes. Donnelly has just had a spin and a moment a bit further down the order in the JSD racing machine. He's off the track on the left-hand side. I think maybe just staying out of the way of lap traffic at this moment, although that's Ian Cable. I think, is it not? No, that's not Ian Cable going through. That was the 117 machine. Yeah, that is way up the road actually. That is Rob Mackay. No, it's not. What car number did that have on it? Have I gone blind? I didn't. I didn't get the car number right there, Ed. I'm so sorry. Anyway, all is fine. It's all right. It's all good. We'll carry on. Troy Dolinshek's leading. We know that much. He's done the fastest lap of the race last time round, and he continues to get quicker and quicker. What's this lap time going to be? 1:44.93 to beat for Troy. 1:45.3. So only 0.4 of a second off it. So he's hardly dropping time, but he's making a bow wave down the start-finish straight, though. It's not getting any drier, is it? I mentioned the dry line a minute ago, but boy, oh boy, it's certainly slippery.
You can really see as well, just as he's coming into turn one, the sort of the rooster tail effect does become sort of lessened as he's taking sort of not as much speed. It's slowing down, and you can see that just the amount. Look how much he's probably soaring at the wheel, trying to get any amount of grip in, and really chucking it through. He's constantly on the verge of losing control, is Troy, but still, he soldiers on.
I suppose that's how you find the grip, isn't it? You take that risk. He knows where the limit of the grip is, but he takes a couple of stabs at it just to see if he can loosen the car, because he knows that he's got the capability to deal with whatever consequence comes his way. So that's why it's working out for him. We've seen a few drivers in history that just really throw the car into a corner in the wet and then just deal with whatever happens. And it seems like Troy is one of those guys to do that. Here's Luke King having a look at Crook in front of him. That was poor, I'm sorry. I could have just had a look at Cook, but, matches the name. I don't. I'm scraping the barrel with the puns today, Ed. I'm so sorry. It's because it's daylight. We're not used to recording these in daylight, everybody. It's usually nighttime when we do this, and we're a bit delusional to begin with. When we look back from Christopher Radloff, he's got his teammate Luke King trying to find a way past Nathan Crook, who's been doing well in this race so far. 7th overall, but he's in a bit of a sandwich right now, isn't he, Ed? And that won't fill him with a lot of confidence.
No, just not at the right time. He's going to have to try and find his way around the Porsche. Not going to miss it, are you, through the gloom, those bright sort of day glow yellowy green tinges to their jobs.
Oh, BMW having an issue there. James Robinson gets it back underway.
Struggling a little bit to put the power down on corner exit, and I think even though the BMW is usually a very stable car, sometimes the traction control kicking in can cause more harm than good. Very similar to the Aston Martin GT4, if you've driven that.
Yes.
Traction control, when that kicks in, that does seem to cause a lot more trouble than it tends to fix. As Dennis Collett, you can see him now leading the Evo class. Hello, Oscanar.
Yeah, Oscanar just a few cars back here. He's got Alex Boniface for company as well, so he's in his own little battle there for second place. But you're absolutely right there on the Aston Martin in particular. I mean, it was the actual car that I drove when I was testing it in the wet at Laguna Seca, and yeah, that car, as soon as you break away, it doesn't allow the car to slip, which is really frustrating as a driver. I remember changing from GT3s to GTEs and turning the traction control off, turning the ABS and everything off. And it was just so much more enjoyable when the assists weren't getting in the way. And that's the thing. Assists can be great sometimes as a driver if they try and keep you on the road. But you often feel limited as a driver, don't you? That they are sort of in the way of whatever you're choosing to do. So you will find more often than not, when you're able to mess about with the setup or change the assists and the settings, that drivers at the very top end of an order will run without it on, won't they?
Yeah, the drivers do often do what they can do, but I think there's only so much can be done. There's a lot of drivers are coming into the pits now, actually, Chaz. So I was just having a look to see when we'd see the first sort of round of what we'd presume to be scheduled pit stops, and they do tend to come in around about the halfway point of the race. It could be obviously strategic to maybe take tyres, so they basically run one set for half the race, the other set for half the race, so they can get a full feel of it. But a lot of drivers might opt to not take tyres just because of the first couple of laps where it takes to properly warm them up. That is something I think the drivers are going to be aware of, is the fact that it is going to be just as important to keep the tyres warm as to keep them in good condition. I think in the wet you'd prioritise having warmer tyres than you would having fresher tyres.
Yeah, definitely. You have to be so cautious in these conditions in so many ways, and people do often just think that, you know, it's a wet weather tyre, it'll be fine, it'll cope with everything, but you can very easily melt them and just wear away the tread, especially on a drying circuit as well. You'll often see drivers down the start finish straight, or even just down a back straight of some sort. You know, they'll drive into the water on purpose just to try and cool the tyre that tiny bit. Matthew Jones is the next car to head into the pit lane. You could hear the siren sound just a moment ago. He comes in from what looks to be 4th place in class. Russell Jakes has just gone past in the MLC 496 car. Their yellow livery looking pretty striking here. He's got Paul Cowlishaw next up behind him in terms of position. So he's got quite the gap there of 8.6 seconds over the Lambo. But Paul in a bit of no man's land here, but that might be quite beneficial for him. Doesn't have to worry about any other cars and any sprays. Luke Lucchese trying to go around the outside of Jean Breitenbach. He's going to make that one work, but Jean's going to say, not on your life. Have one of them. Kisses the curb, and that's all it takes. John Breitenbach straight on, and he's going to lose another place here to Tristan Dino Brager if he's not careful. That's all it takes, though, isn't it, Ed? A little bit of overcommitment, kiss a wet patch of the circuit, and you can kiss your position goodbye.
Very easily done, just one minor mistake, and like you say, the hard work that John put in to get up to second place, it's just undone at the moment. He could lose out of second position here, as you can see now. Dino Brager really closing up. Tristan looks to the inside for a moment, thinks better of it, gets a little bit more into the slipstream, and now decides to go to the inside, and now he's going to be able to brake on the sort of favourable wet line just off of the traditional racing line where it isn't so rubbered in. He's going to be able to get it stopped nicely up to the inside, and there, taking that position now into third position. So it is now RDSA Esports 1, 2, 3 in the elite class.
Very well done that. Nice and tidy stuff as well. Looks like a bit of sunshine coming out there for just a second, which will be lovely to see for a lot of the drivers. But yeah, we do have a number of them that have pitted and will head into the pits now. Tristan Engelstad in the Mercedes. Not a car that we've looked at yet this evening, actually, the Mercedes. Wasn't quite sure how well it was going to go, but it seems like that Tristan's able to keep it in check at least. We've got Luke King in there as well, Paul Cowlishaw. Looked like Luke was taking tyres there because the car had floated up in the air. And what we'll do, actually, I'm intrigued to go on board with Tristan Engelstad and just stay with this Mercedes for a minute. Just see what this opening sort of half a lap is like. I mean, it's diabolically pretty noise that the Mercedes makes. As down the inside goes the Lamborghini. Or around the outside, I should say, goes the Lamborghini. That's the 108 of Hussein Sarakadesla. That's for overall position, but not in terms of their class. Tristan in the elite class. But look at the spray already, straight back into it. You can just about see the brake lights. iRacing actually released a patch not long after the wet weather came out to improve how bright the brake lights were through the spray, because no one could see a thing ahead of the Sebring 12 hour. You can just see that Tristan, I mean, he, much like Troy Dolinchek earlier, is floating this car around, isn't he, Ed?
Yeah, I think floating is pretty much the accurate term for it, because you don't have a lot of feeling, and I thought he was going to lose the rear end there. You could just see him having to soar at the steering to keep it under control. Tristan, I think, did take tyres on that round of pit stops, didn't he? So that's going to be something for him to be very aware of, is just keeping it nice and sort of warmed up, as Troy Dolinchek now in from the lead of the race. Allows Luke Lucchese into first position and to be the pace setter, at least for the moment. We do expect him in fairly soon. We have obviously passed the halfway point of the race. Also, Brayton back now in from the lead of the Premier class, promotes Jack Wyborn in to the lead of the Premier division.
Yeah, good bit of changing about going on here. Jack has actually got company in front of him there. That's the 72 Lamborghini. Is that Kostrick? No, it's Graham Matthew in the Lamborghini. He moves over to the left-hand side, and the Ferrari trundles its way by, making the horrendously dull noise that it does. Sounds like someone put a V8 in a blender. But even still, Jack Wyborn doesn't care what noise it makes. He doesn't care what it looks like, because he's driving it well and kicking up a lot of spray. I love the look of the wet weather. It's so exciting to commentate on, just in general. Just adds so much more to the racing. But we've still got a number of them yet to make pit stops. We'll show you on the left-hand side. You can see there's a lot more pit stops made than there were before. It's Owen Seward that's leading the way in the Porsche in the Evo division. Gorgeous livery as well on the Aura Motorsports car. He's flashing the lights. It's almost like he knows we're watching, even days later. Fantastic stuff. He's got
Wonderful
Joe Glass
stuff,
just in front of him. That's your trick, that, isn't it?
We're not. Yeah, I forgot for a moment we're not live there. He was doing my trick of just flashing the headlights, just so we could see that knows that we're watching and listening in. Going into the pit lane now, though, Owen. I have to say, I do like the livery there. Very nice and simple, sort of an understated silver effect, and then a nice purple sort of really accentuates the car nicely.
Yeah, it's good contrast. Here's another beautiful livery as well. James Bostock in the Suma GP2 Porsche, one of the teams that sort of had a bit of an amalgamation for this season. Bit of sunshine, just popping through for a moment there. Maybe the circuit drying up in the later stages, not quite sure, but you can definitely see the reflections there on the windscreens as the windscreen wipers still continue to work hard. Luke Lucchese, Jean Breitenbach and Tristan Dinabrega now back into the pit lane, so Troy Dolinchek re-inherits that lead that he held on to so well earlier. Bit of hesitation there from James as he clambers over the curbs. You've got to be mighty careful with it. Sometimes it's actually quite a good thing as well to be able to go over the curbs, because it sort of drags the car into the corner, doesn't it? I'm sure we've had a few moments each where you sort of put the wheel on the inside of the curb and it drags you around rather than sort of spitting you out, but you play a bit of roulette every time you do that, don't you?
Yeah, you really don't have the biggest amount of control over the car, but sometimes best drivers know when to give up control of the car and let the car do its own thing. So sometimes, like you say, touching the curbs, hooking the car around can help out, but only if you're really comfortable with it and you've put plenty of practice in. You can see Matt Holland struggling a little bit there with some standing water. We did see that Glasstec DXT Lamborghini in some troubles. I think it was on the opening couple of laps, wasn't it? Especially through this moment where he had a big snap and then a big impact with the barrier. Seems to be fine for him now. Atinagel, ooh, in a little bit of trouble and having to rejoin the circuit. That throws a little bit of a upset moment there for Porsche just now ahead of him.
Stephen Donnelly, that is, as well. That's a positioning class, this one. So Stephen taking advantage of that. They've also got John Ludbrook just in front of them there as well, but this is for 13th, 14th and 15th in class. And Ati Nagel actually winning one of the races at Catalunya, if I remember rightly, in his division. So he's certainly got the same pedigree as the rest of the RDSA guys, running his very interesting livery. Yeah, I don't know if he's going into the pits here, because he has pitted before. I think he's just staying out of the way on the right-hand side. He has got one of his teammates coming through, which is Luke Lucchese, second position. He's actually in a battle there with that other car with him. That's John Breitenbach in the other Porsche. And look at the drama of that. How cool is that shot? As they scream their way down the start-finish straight, 250 kilometers an hour, spray everywhere, windscreen wiper going, gearbox whining. It's a pure motorsport moment there. Shows you how good the sims are. Just look at this. Doesn't that just make you tense up? Like I've just gone all tense and excited, and it's just really cool.
So good as well, because you see the cars, the way that they move around in a very realistic manner. It does really immerse you into the sim. A lot of the times with certain sims, you don't get that same feeling of weight behind the car, that they're actually on the surface. It feels sometimes in other racing sims that the cars are just sort of placeholders. They're just gliding across just like a few inches above the circuit, not properly making contact, hitting all of those bumps.
Yeah. The way they react with
the
with the curbs and the sort of the scenery and all sorts just doesn't look as natural, does it, in other sims, you know, and the camera is glued perfectly to them, so I don't know, it just doesn't even give the impression that it's a sort of man-operated camera like we have here on iRacing. We're very grateful to use this sim for our broadcasts, and for so many people to use it for their excellent leagues like we have here in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. Thanks again to the admins and everybody involved for having us on here at Chaz Draycott Media, and I must say, you know, sort of breaking the fourth wall for a minute with this not quite live broadcast, for allowing us to do this as part of our deal throughout the season. It's been really, really good to be able to do this, and we know that, you know, real life does come first and other commitments do, but the guys have been so accommodating to us to be able to do these broadcasts like this, and we hope that you're enjoying watching it, everybody. I understand it's not the same as doing it live, but we do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this, wherever you may be watching it from, and whenever you may be watching it as well. Interesting here, though, Ed, that Tristan Dino Brega is now the car on the attack all of a sudden, on the back of Jean Breitenbach, as, ooh, that got spicy there with traffic, and that is Donnelly. Oh my goodness me, how did that wing end plate not just come through my monitor? Wow.
Brega, nearly had a very big moment, but thankfully he got through unscathed, but that was scary, scary stuff. It does see Jean Breitenbach now, I think, up ahead of Dino Brega through that round of pit stops. Is the Barbecue Pro Racing driver ahead of the RDSA eSports driver.
Matthew Jones is just on the fastest lap of the race in the Premier class there in his Porsche Glasstec and DXT machine. He's getting moving now after Russell Jakes. Jack Wyborn and Marcel Breitenbach, the next cars ahead. There's a bit of a blink in and out there for the Corvette, which I think is Robin Truswell. It is. Robin was blinking a little bit earlier on as well. We've not looked at Sean Clark yet in the other one of the Corvettes out there on the track tonight. Sean Clark running as a privateer. What is it with Corvette drivers and it blinking? Don't know what it is, but Sean running the Clark and James branding. I believe that brand's sponsoring another series as well, actually, elsewhere on the iRacing surface. I've seen Sean and his brand before. That was a moment of lap traffic, I believe, for the Alpha 1 car. That was Luke King, and Christopher Radloff was the first one that went through there.
Just caught me off guard, really, how quickly Christopher was closing in.
Yeah, launched it, didn't he?
He was not going to make it, just because obviously on the wet surface, when you carry that much speed, you're always running the risk of just losing traction completely and understeering out wide, but he seemed to have a good handle of it. Luke King for Alpha 1 Esports now also trying his best he can to climb up the order. Currently inside the top 10. This man is sitting on the fringes of the top 10. Gianni Terhart trying to keep ahead of Matthias Pentela, who's currently in 11th place, just behind him.
Yeah, Gianni had that drama at the start of the race, let's not forget as well, so he's having to sort of recover since then. Flipping heck, those cars just emerge out of the mist, don't they? They just suddenly appeared in the spray at turn 1. It only looked like there was 1 or 2 cars, but there's 4 of them heading into the first corner. But great race so far here in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. We're into the final third of it with 19 minutes and change left to go. It's Troy Dolenczak. A very impressive performance so far, over 20 seconds in the lead, with Luke Lucchese next up. Jean Breitenbach in third position. Tristan Dinabrega just behind him on our screen right now. Marcel Breitenbach leading the way in Premier from Jack Wyborn, Russell Jakes and then Matthew Jones. And it's Dennis Koller that has eventually ended up as the leader in the Evo class, because we've seen about 6 different drivers spin from the lead in Evo. Francois Brandet back up to second place. Malo TA is in third place with Boniface, and then Howarth completing the top 5 there. And it was Robin Noel Brown that was leading that class in the early stages. He's now way in the thick of it in 10th position. Sean Clark, the next car behind him. Owen Seward not too far up the road either, 4 seconds. But everybody's constantly got someone to fight here, haven't they, Ed? And yet again we bring that to the fore, because there's so many cars in this championship every single time. We've got 49 cars out there on the circuit at the moment.
Never a dull moment with the guys everywhere. Here is it. It's always action as Matthew Jones, another Glasstec DXT car, just not quite being as comfortable in the wet. There's so many other cars out there, but again, it's just a case of drivers maybe not being used to the circuit as well. Let's not forget, iRacing has only recently introduced wet racing, and obviously throughout all of last season, while it was available for the drivers, it wasn't used in the league, so it was eventually taken as a decision by the drivers not to run it on the first sort of season of it being available, just because it wasn't known if it was going to be reliable or not.
Yeah,
Turns
absolutely.
out iRacing, we should trust them a little bit more, because they absolutely smashed it out of the park, and it has provided some great racing so far here tonight. But like I was just saying, a lot of these drivers might not have properly raced in the wet before.
No, absolutely not. And it really is a learning curve when you do it as well. I mean, I've tried it on ACC before, I've tried it on R-Factor, but here on iRacing, it's terrifyingly realistic and very, very difficult as well to get used to. As Nick Stubb finds out, you can see just how easily the car gets away from you. Oh, he gets a clip there from, it was Stephen Donnelly, and then that was James Robinson in the BMW. That's like having a hotel dropped on you, having the BMW hit the front of you. And you can see that James Robinson's car heavily damaged, and he's pulled over at the side of the road. And Nick Stubb has lost the front end and the back end of that Porsche. That was a horrible noise. And he's trying to stay out of the way. That's the 227 car wanting to make it through. That's the car that is actually a lap ahead. That is Nathan Crook, and he's in a fight with Luke King as well. So many elements of this race affecting other classes. Gianni Terhart getting held up a little bit as well by Stubb as he tries to get back out of the way again from one racing line to the next. Boy, it's all go here, and we've still got 16 minutes left.
Hammer down, everyone, please. Still some more racing to go. You need your car in one piece to finish and score points. So we can see now Nathan Rook doing all he can to try and stay ahead of Luke King in behind. You can see that Luke's really eager to get past a little look to the inside, trying to force Nathan into a mistake that doesn't seem to be coming through for this moment in time. Just looking all the way around as it's John Breitenbach now having a good little scrap this time with Tristan Dinabrega. Tristan trying it all the way around the outside to now get the inside line, and it looks to be paying off unless John can really brave it out onto this next braking zone. But I don't think he quite has the grip on that sort of trickier, sort of more traditional dry line, but in the wet it just becomes a nightmare. But look, they're darting and diving, trying to find the grip while also trying to cover off any potential moves. But John, I think, having to now settle for fourth place.
Great battle in there as, dearie me, Tristan Engelstad has just had a problem at the same corner those guys have just gone through. The Mercedes not behaving itself for him. Ryan Ottens goes through. Now where's Christopher Radloff in this? There he is. He's actually got Nathan Crook right behind him as well. So all of the Alpha 1 Esports cars quite close together on the circuit. I thought it was just the two of them. But Ryan Ottens not too far up the road either. Who is that off the circuit? That is Danny Weir. No, it's not Danny Weir, it's Ati Nagel having a bit of a drama across the grass there. I'm sure with that livery he's hoping that he can walk on water tonight, but certainly looks like he's not been able to, unfortunately. As we go back to this fight for third position overall, third position in the elite class. Tristan Dinabrega now clearing Jean Breitenbach, but hats off to Jean. We've seen him right up there in the elite class before, but not to this extent. It's really paid dividends to him here tonight in the wet conditions at Fuji. It's been lovely to see it, but that's the thing. You do get drivers that really stand out in these tricky conditions, don't you, Ed? They've just got a completely different handle over it.
Yeah, and it's going to be said again, but I think the best driver out there is going to be Troy Dolinczek for that. I mean, we often see him leading races by significant margins, but I don't think I've ever seen one quite this dramatic, especially when the cars in behind haven't really put a foot wrong. You can't single out anything that Luke or Tristan have been doing wrong. It's just that Troy appears to be an absolute alien in the wet.
He's an alien anyway, and he's 7,000 I rating, Troy Dolinczek. The only driver I think in the field with more than that is Matthias Pentler, actually. Matthias Pentler, the highest I rating in the field, 7,500 for him. As you can see, even drivers with nearly 10,000, or well, 3/4 of the way to 10,000, can still have their own struggles in these wet conditions. Maybe Troy channeling some of his real world racing experience to get used to these wet weather conditions, I'm not sure. But Matthias still charging on in the Ferrari. I love that livery as well. The RD SimSport livery always looks fantastic, but with the black and red on that Ferrari 296, it really does look evil. It's a great, great looking race car, that. He's just recently got past Marcel Breitenbach, actually, in that Audi just behind him. He's got 5 seconds over Russell Jakes in the lead of the Premier Division, so he's going to be hoping to at least keep that gap there. But I imagine the Audi at different points here, Ed, is going to become a very tiptoey car, because it always feels like it has zero back end on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think, at least for me, it's a car that I could never get along with because of that. I like to have a car that's nice and stable at the rear end, that you can chuck into corners, not have to worry about that pendulum effect of the oversteer taking you around. And I think, like we saw for some drivers, having that desire of the car, the natural desire of the car to turn into the corners, to pitch in on the nose, it can help, especially like you were mentioning earlier, Chaz, in the wet. You want the car to be able to sort of turn in, because if it turns in a little bit too much, it's not got all of that weight at the front where you can sort of recorrect it and set it on the right course. Whereas if you have it in something like the BMW or the Ford, where all of that weight is positioned right over the front tyres, as soon as those front tyres lose any traction, it's a nightmare to try and get them back under control. You can't use the rear because that's got no weight behind it either, and you then really do find yourself in a tricky situation. So I think Marcel, he's got good handling of that Audi at the moment in time, and it's great to see it get some good rewards, because it's a car that not many drivers, I think, in fact, he's the only Audi out there, isn't he, Marcel?
He is, yeah. Yeah, he's the only Audi in the field. I think the most we've ever had on the circuit in the last couple of seasons anyway has been 3 at once, and that was, I think, some of the DXT guys ran it in their academy colours, and I'm trying to think, it was a French driver that was driving it, and I'm really sorry to said driver who it was that was running it. I feel awful for forgetting his name, but he was racing it in the gorgeous black and red livery, and he had a really torrid time of trying to get that car to work. He also raced in the BMW as well, and yeah, it was certainly not an easy season for the Audis, never has been. But yeah, you're absolutely right, it's great to see Marcel making the most of that car at the moment. The battle's still raging for second place here in the Premier class. This is going to be music to the ears of Marcel Breitenbach, because if he can see all of this going on in his relative box, then he'll know that it's taking the pressure off him. But there's 2 of them side by side. Russell Jakes and Jack Wyborn are teammates, so they need to not hit each other, because that's rule number 1 of motorsport, is not to hit your teammate. Interesting how the Ferrari seems to glow compared to the Porsche. I'm not sure if that's down to just spec maps or what, or the textures of the car, but the Ferrari looks a lot brighter in these wet weather conditions, and it looks like it's quicker as well, because Jack Wyborn goes down the inside and just jet streams away from him out of the corner. Wow, it's like it's on skis.
Yeah, Jack Wyborn having some good late pace in this race. It's obviously going to be a tricky task for him to catch up to the rear end of Marcel Breitenbach, but at the moment there's a lot of pace in that Ferrari at this closing stage of the race. Maybe with a drying track, is it starting to maybe get into its element? We know that Ferrari as well is renowned for being a monster in a straight line. We'll see if that's going to be maybe to his benefit with the circuit starting to dry off a touch. You can really just put the hammer down coming out of that final corner.
Tristan Dinnebrega has had a bit of a spin there. He's lost 7 seconds to Jean Breitenbach. So that's going to help Jean towards his potential podium finish. The rooster tails still absolutely colossal off the back of these GT3 cars. Love that shot though, as Tristan screams down the start-finish straight. 250 kilometers an hour in the Porsche 911 992 GT3R. Fantastic racing machine, as seen by the fact that there's 736 of them on the timing tower on the left-hand side. Clearly the car to be in. Tristan Engelstad in the middle of the pack though. I mean, the Mercedes looks like an anglerfish, and it's been going pretty well like a fish in the wet weather. Did have a spin earlier on lost ground to Ryan Ottens and Christopher Radloff. He's having a bit of a wiggle there, actually, out of turn one. As it looks to me like, was that Oskinar having... Yeah, Oskinar's had some sort of drama there out of the first corner, and he has decided to pull over, and that is his race done, I think, in this monsoon. Not good stuff, but... Yeah, I think the only thing that's drying the circuit out at this point, Ed, is just the fact that there's so many cars on it. I think they're gradually drying certain apexes where there isn't really a wet line advantage. Otherwise, the rain still falls here at Fuji, and these guys aren't going to see any sunshine before this race is finished.
Yeah, it's going to be a case of it's obviously raining until the end of the race. There's Jack Wyborn.
He's had a
After all that
drama.
he was talking about how great his pace was and that he could be looking to challenge Marcel, Bess has a little bit of a moment, and that's just how quickly your fortunes can turn in the wet. Just one small mistake and hard work can become undone.
Yeah, he's not even on for a podium result now. Look at that, as Joe Sparrow there goes over the curb. You could see a massive amount of spray get kicked up from the right-hand side of that Porsche. And Joe in the JSD Racing Team machine goes through. And again, over the curb as in the background there, the number 21 car going in a little bit too hot. That was one of our Evo class cars, I'm pretty sure. That's Owen Seward in the Aura Motorsports Porsche. Dennis Collett, he's flying in the wet right now. He's got 12 seconds over Francois Brandet. He's kept it nice and tidy. He's on for a solid result here in round 3 of the championship. Let's not forget, this is the first of the endurance races of the season. We have a mix of endurance races and the sprint race format as well. Next time out we go to Misano, which is going to have random weather apparently, Ed, which is going to be broadcast live on Chaz Draycott Media on the 27th of June. So I'm looking forward to that one, because Misano, I mean, I love that place. One of my favourite circuits in the world. Oh, hello, Lamborghini off. That's Sarah Cadesla.
I think Sarah Cadesla needs to get up and running pretty sharpish. I think he loses out to Wesley Van Rens there.
Yes.
Sees the Ford jump up a position
look at this.
into 7th place.
Showcase for the new cars.
Hey.
Oh, bye.
Never mind. Bit camera shy there. There's the Corvette.
But look at the size of the Mustang. It's like a house. I mean, to be fair, the Corvette actually doesn't look that small next to it right now.
But then again, you see the Ford next to the BMW, and we laugh about how big the BMW looks. I mean,
yeah, but the thing is, the BMW is big and ugly. The Mustang is big and pretty. So
makes a nicer noise. I'll give you that it makes a nicer noise.
Oh,
I still
it does.
have a soft spot for the BMW, but I cannot, be that deluded in thinking that it makes a nicer noise than the Ford. The Ford sounds heavenly.
I mean, we could just stay on this camera for the rest of the race if you want, because I think I'd be happy to. But to be fair, I think we'd get fired because we're not looking at stuff like this. This is a car we've not seen today, actually, which is James Howarth in the number 54 DXT Scion machine. Love the big sort of Rexy shark mouth on the front of this thing, or it'd be a dinosaur mouth, wouldn't it? He's racing here with John Ludbrook. 2 different classes, these guys as well. James in the Evo class, John in the Premier class. This is going to sound fantastic as they stream past down the start-finish straight. Plenty of water being kicked up there. I think it's got wetter, if anything, as this race has gone on. I don't technically think it's really dried out there as James goes deep into turn 1, but finds the wet line. Can he use the momentum around the outside to stay in front? I'm not sure. There's a lot of water being kicked up on the outside there. They're still side by side. Great flying formation here by the number 54. And the 114, John Lubrook, does eventually go through as James concedes before the next corner. 4 minutes and 3/4 left to go. And there's still battles all over the circuit. We've got a scrap going on here as we look at Ian Cable. He's got Owen Seward just going slowly to his left-hand side. Martin Kenyon involved in this as well, though, in the Lamborghini. He's recovering from earlier on. But yeah, it's still absolutely leathering it down, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah, the rain's not let up from the start of the race up until now. It'll definitely continue on up until the very end, but tell you what, it's given us a great sort of stage, hasn't it, the rain, for an amazing race so far. So this is the third race of the season, the second round, first one being one of our sort of meetings where you have 2 sprint races. It was great to see drivers obviously having to adapt to many different formats, and I do wonder actually if we see a sprint race weekend with a bit of change of weather, how that affects the drivers having 2 different weather conditions to maybe contend with over the different races, if that maybe sort of changes their approach to one race, knowing that the other might be in a different sort of session state.
Yeah, so later on in the season, on the 1st of August, we'll be heading to Mugello, which goes from a wet to dry format. So the first race of the night will be in wet conditions. The circuit will be drying as it goes on. I'm not sure whether it will have rained before the session and then it's just the circuit naturally drying, or whether it starts still raining and then eventually the rain stops throughout the night. But we will have 2 30-minute races there, and the description is just down as wet to dry, so we'll see what the organisers have in store for us there. And then at Hockenheim we have a dry to wet race later on in the season, the penultimate round of the championship as well, no less. That'll be really, really cool to see. Unfortunately, the only other post-race or as live broadcast we have this season will actually be the finale at Portimao, which is right at the end of the championship. Unfortunately, Ed and I both busy for that one on the night, so we've been given the benefit of being able to do that one afterwards for you, but we'll do that when we can, and we hope to have a very good time as the end of the season there, Ed. I'm looking forward to that. There's even night races this season. Unfortunately, they will not be broadcast because it'll just be a black screen with some headlights on it, because again, iRacing's gone for the realistic interpretation and we will not see a thing. But still, we've got an exciting season ahead of us again. Great circuits, a great tour of the entire world, not just European circuits. And I think it started out strong here. We've had a bit of everything, haven't we? Dry conditions at Catalunya with 2 sprint races, and now an endurance race in the wet at Fuji. It's really mixed bag so far.
Yeah, it's been obviously completely different races from the start of the season until, obviously, well, this is still technically the start of the season, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a great sort of introduction for a lot of these drivers to iRacing's sort of new, what they call it, Tempest, I think, their weather system.
I was having this chat the other day, actually, after they brought it. Goodbye. That was Rob Mackay, I believe, in the background. That's what you get for giving us the replay, Rob. Unfortunately, Rob having a bit of a spin there. I was having this chat again the other day that iRacing don't want us calling it Tempest anymore, apparently. I think there's something somewhere where there was a licensing issue with the name, or like it had been there was an oversight.
Tempest.
Yeah,
the weather system formerly known as Tempest.
Yeah, I think it's a great name, but I don't know, I can't remember what it was. There was a reason for it, but they said immediately, like, stop calling it that in one of the iRacing Discords somewhere. I think it might have been down to licensing. There was some name somewhere where it clashed that was a bit of an oversight, or I think maybe it was as simple as they just didn't want us calling it that because it's not always about having a tempest or a storm. It's just the fact that it generates weather no matter what. I don't know. Still, that was Troy Dolinshek starting the final lap of the race.
What a race has been for Troy, hasn't it? He's going to nearly have 30 seconds to look at the end of this race. Such has been his domination from start to finish. We've popped in to see him every so often, but a lot of the focus has been elsewhere just because of how dominant he has been. As Alex Boniface dropping down the...
Nice one, Tristan. That was fantastic entertainment. Engelstad flying through shot sideways in the Mercedes. I'm sure he didn't mean to, but we caught that at the right moment. Wow. That was a big old slide, that one. Goodness me.
Tristan actually dropped behind his teammate now, Gianni Tahara, up into 9th place. They'll start their final laps of the race, but going back to what we were saying earlier, we haven't really seen too much of Troy. We've popped in and out just to check. Yep, he's still there, he's still leading, still got a commanding advantage. He's chipped a couple of wheels out onto the grass, and I can't see quite the car number behind, but whatever it was, follows his line.
That was lively.
Easily done. So easy done, just to make that little mistake. But even when he makes a mistake, he still manages to hold it and keep it going. And just one more corner to go now for Troy. He'll be able to take yet another race victory this season.
Yeah, he still manages to somehow style it out. It's just typical Troy Dolinchek, isn't it? Right behind Oskinar, who's also going to get his moment of fame. Troy Dolinchek rounds the final corner. And boy, he really has blown everybody else away in a tempest here tonight. Dolinchek wins round 3 of the championship at Fuji here in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. What an amazing, amazing drive that was, Sunshine. Really top effort by that. And just behind, Dennis Koller is going to be the next class winner to take the line. He wins the Evo class here in his Porsche. Great job by Dennis. He's got a big gap as well, actually, of about 17 seconds back to his nearest rivals. Just behind them, Luke Lucchese is going to take second position. The reigning champion gets more big points on the board. I'm wondering who's going to be next up, actually. Breitenbach is still a while around the circuit. It's going to be Francois Brandet, second position in the Evo class for him. He's going to finish just ahead of Malo Thier in the Glasstec Academy machine. Again, the French dominance that he alluded to earlier in the season coming true. Jean Breitenbach with an overall podium. Great drive from him here tonight. He certainly deserved that one. A lot of hard work went into that. Engelstad's had another drama here. No, Breitenbach from the lead of the class. This is the Premier class. Final lap here, Ed. Where's Russell Jakes in all of this? There he is, in the background in the Porsche. That's Joe Sparrow for position as well. Has Marcel got up to speed?
Have a slowdown?
That's what I'm wondering. Has he got back up to speed? Does he have to serve it still? Let's see.
I think he's just going to be able to hang on, but that was heart and mouth stuff from Marcel Breitenbach. The Audi does manage to survive right at the end to take the class victory. And look at Russell Jakes and Joe Sparrow, drag race up to the line. Who's it going to be? Joe's got a slight edge. You can see him catching, but just at the line, I think it is Russell Jakes ahead of Joe Sparrow.
It absolutely is. A bit of powerboat racing in a straight line there. Voice break and everything. Flipping out, they kept us busy there. But Troy Dolinchek and RDSA Esports yet again showing us how it is done here tonight. All conditions, they just managed to somehow dominate, and it's just amazing. But that run by Troy, that gap was just incredible, Ed. Absolutely incredible. Let's have a look at some results then, shall we, before we round it out here tonight in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. I've got to actually bring the results up first, so there you go. Troy Dolinchek wins the race outright by 26.4 seconds in the end, and he wins the elite class in doing so. Luke Lucchese finishes in second place behind his teammate, with Jean Breitenbach in third position. Tristan de Nobrega finishes in fourth, with Ryan Ottens completing the top 5. Christopher Radloff was next up with Nathan Crook in 7th, Luke King in 8th ahead of Gianni Terhar, and Matthias Pentele took the top 10 spot in the end, with Tristan Engelstad having some dramas in the Quad Dash Racing Mercedes in the latter stages. Joe Glass finishes in 12th with Simon Cheshire in 13th, Paul Cowlishaw 14th ahead of Ian Cable, Matt Hoyland and Alex Fretwell complete the class. And we'll hand over now to the wonderful Ed May, who takes the Premier Division.
Thank you very much, Chaz. And it was, well, a dramatic end to the race for the Premier class, with Marcel Breitenbach's late mistake cutting down his 9-second advantage down to just 3, with Russell Jakes and Joe Sparrow having a drag race to the line, but it was the 107 of Russell Jakes who was able to come out just on top. Joe Sparrow there rounding out the podium. Then we come back to Jack Wyborn, finishing in 4th place ahead of Matthew Jones. And then we come to Rob Mackay, Wesley Van Rens, Hussein Sarkar-Desler, James Bostock and Robin Aston, who rounds out the top 10. They come to Bruno Silva, they're in 11th ahead of Scott Kostrick, Stephen Donnelly in 13th, John Nudbrook 14th, Nick Stubb 15th, with Robin Truswell, Matty Nagel and James Robinson rounding out the 18-car field in the Premier class.
And then we move over to the Evo category to round things out. And it's Dennis Koller who takes the win there. Very well done to him. Francois Brandet next up in 2nd position. Malo Thier finished in 3rd place, with Alex Boniface in 4th. Danny Weir 5th. James Howarth in 6th place. And I do apologise for the noise, everybody. Martin Kenyon 7th ahead of Robin Noel Brown, Owen Seward, Sean Clark, Graham Matthew, Niazi Oskinar, Chris Keenan and Gareth Newton. That is unfortunately all we've got time for here tonight on Chaz Draycott Media. Thanks once again to all the organisers for allowing us to do it this way. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for the drivers for putting on a hell of a show. Thanks to you as well, Ed. It's been great fun once again. And thank you to Rob Mackay for sending the replay over. Really do appreciate that, and it gives us a great platform to be able to do this on. But as for now, I'm going to shut that horrible noise up from the Porsches, and I'm going to say goodbye, but we'll see you again very soon for the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship on Chaz Draycott Media. Have a good night, everyone.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Fuji. But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1200 horsepower brake. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look, and a drift is going off.
Ben Gregory now, I love it. 16.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GitGudRacing.com. I've coached hundreds of drivers from real-life racers to sim enthusiasts who experience rapid improvement after just one session. And while investing in top-notch hardware is great, imagine how much more you can elevate your experience by adding coaching to the mix. My methods are practical, aiming to break down complex concepts into easily digestible bits that are simple to understand. You can find reviews of the sessions I've conducted on the Fiverr link provided in the video description. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together.